All right, you guys asked for the celebrity block list, and I was thinking I'm going to start with 6. 3 celebrities, 3 influencers. That doesn't mean that you cannot go on a block spree until your heart is content. You can block as many people as you want. I'm just starting with 3 that I think are good to start with because of the fact that some people are overwhelmed, and I feel like some people don't even know why we're doing this. We're doing this because we want to show that when we come together as a community, that the power of the people standing together is stronger than the people that are in power. These people do not care about what you have to say. They don't care about you at all. All they care about is money and power. And the only reason why they have that money and power is because of us. They make that through our attention, our time, our money. That is what gives them the power that they have. So here are my first 3, okay? I'm picking the Kardashians. You can start with Kim. I'm going to go ahead and do all of them. The whole family, all of them, including Caitlyn Jenner. The kids too, sorry. I know some people are going to get butthurt about that, but you know what? The whole fam. Do they have a dog? If they have a dog, I'm blocking them too.
So the Hunger Games books were originally inspired by the author flicking through the TV channels during the Iraq War and seeing the disconnect between just like general culture and the footage coming out of Iraq at the time. And we got our own version of that about 20 years later, where we got to see the contrast of footage from the Met Gala and the footage coming out of Gaza. And of course, because they're encouraged to wear all these bizarre outfits, it actually did look like a scene from the Hunger Games movies. Now, today what I want to talk about is just, I guess, younger generations being sick of celebrity culture when it's so clear they don't care about the issues of the rest of us. And that's been, I guess, heightened by everyone seeing the footage coming out of Gaza on social media, while celebrities acting like everything's chill, it's just the same as usual. But it can really be in regards to many things. Like, we now have the era of the billionaire celebrity. Now, of course, in the last 100 or so years, we have had famous billionaires, but a lot of these billionaires used to be mainly famous for being like industrialists, bankers and stuff. Nothing too glamorous. But now today we have like Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift. We have the so-called self-made billionaires. So this element of celebrity is not just part of the ruling class because they pal around with the elite. It's literally like they're entering the top echelons of the ruling class in places like the United States, literally the heart of the empire right there. And I don't really like using like fictional examples to talk about like real world politics, but it's kind of hard not to at this point, especially as we're going to see, we have people like Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, the leading fighter against the empire, who were inspired by the United States government, now going to the White House to do PR for Joe Biden while he funds every single thing Israel is doing. And I just read a report today, despite saying recently he's going to stop selling them weapons, he's trying to improve a new $1 billion deal to sell them even more weapons. And this has led to a TikTok campaign, which has just gone everywhere now on social media, calling for people to block celebrities on the block list. And these people are people who haven't used their voice for any important social causes or have like actively supported Israel. And I think a lot of people who are maybe like more hardcore leftists like myself might kind of not really care about it, but I actually think it's a good thing. I think at least it's because it helps people who might not be as politically conscious really start connecting things in their mind. So I saw a meme going around yesterday, and it was basically saying, you know, why would I care what's happening in the Middle East when my rent is like $3,000 a month and I work like 6 jobs, right? Basically saying, I have my own problems. Why would I care about that? But because this meme fails to recognize the problems in the Middle East are linked to your problems domestically. And that problem is called capitalism, a capitalist system upheld by the United States and its allies for its benefit. And although they'll gaslight you about Israel and Palestine like it's some really old conflict that you can never make sense of, the one word you have to keep thinking of is capitalism. And that's what the Palestinians are. They're a sacrifice to capitalism. And you can see that through the inactivity of the Gulf Arab states, which have populations that really don't like Israel, or the North African states as well. like Egypt who don't do anything. And why don't they do anything? Because they are all in bed with the United States and they're all in bed with Israel economically. So the Palestinians are a fine sacrifice to keep that economic relationship going. And how for your average person they factor in is you pay your taxes, loads of those taxes are spent on the empire's military machine, the United States. But did you know that 4 billion in aid that Israel gets, which is paid for by your taxes, by the way, is conditioned on the fact that they spend most of it buying weapons of US arms companies. So while your taxes subsidize various different industries, in that example, you're literally just subsidizing the US arms industry in just that specific aid bill, all the while people like Joe Biden and the elite, what do they do to help your rent? What do they do to help public housing? What do they do to tackle poverty? What do they do to tackle healthcare? Nothing. Nothing. So that's how it's linked. They're giving away your money to fund all this terrible shit overseas while doing nothing for you. Don't you think your problems are linked there? And that's why I think things like the block list, and if we're centering it on the issue of like Israel, I think it's important because, like I said, some people who might not be as politically informed or engaged, it really does help them with that and help them link it together of like, here is the elite, here's why they don't say anything, and making them question why they don't say stuff. And I think this whole issue around Palestine has really politicized a lot of people. Like, I've been watching YouTubers and they made a comment about like boycotting certain like Israeli companies or companies that have dealings with Israel. And I was so surprised. I'm like, this person doesn't seem like that political. The content isn't that political. And they said it so casually as well. They're a bit younger than me. And I was just like impressed and happy. And I was like, this generation is probably going to be a lot better than like my generation or older generations when it comes to that stuff, of course helped by growing up in late stage capitalism. So we're going to expand on that in a sec, but please follow me on social media, mainly on Instagram, my YouTube Instagram and my travel Instagram, also on Threads and Blue Sky. And if you want to join my Discord server and support my work, please check out my Patreon. So let's talk about just like the general celebrity landscape to start with. So I made a video recently about Amy Schumer and how she just like, you know, supported all the terrible stuff Israel does, but she's actually related to Chuck Schumer, the head of the Democrats in the Senate. So already you have that link there between an unfunny, untalented, bloodthirsty celebrity and one of the leading politicians in the Democratic Party. So that's already a nice connection for you to realise that, yes, celebrities can be part of the ruling elite as well. And then more recently, we had, obviously, Jerry Seinfeld, very well-known Zionist, massive supporter of Israel, has done horrible visits to the West Bank, running in with these bizarre, like, Zionist culty camps and stuff like that. And then you had, like, the Duke students walking out of his commencement speech, which, you know, good on them, because, again, there's a celebrity using his fame to promote, like, horrible things. And then most recently, you have Mark Hamill going to the White House. And this is probably the most funny just because of the character he's most famous for playing. Of course, he is famous for playing the Joker as well. He's most famous for playing Luke Skywalker. And just, you know, reporting on this from The Guardian, Star Wars Mark Hamill hails Obi-Wan Kenobi after White House meeting. So he put on glasses saying that Joe Biden gave him his aviators. He said he was honoured to be invited to meet the most legislatively successful president in my lifetime, reeling off a list of Biden's accomplishments. The actor told reporters, "It just shows you that one person can be so influential and so positive in our lives, although no Star Wars questions, please." And he talked about how great it was that Joe Biden invited him into the White House because Obama never did. And he said, "I called him Mr. President. He said, you can call me Joe. I said, can I call you Obi-Wan Kenobi?" He liked that. So Mark Hamill just seems like a dumb lib, to be honest. But I think this is a great example of why when you love some sort of celebrity for playing a character that means a lot to you, a lot of people love Luke Skywalker. I'm not the biggest fan of Luke Skywalker as a character. Although you guys know me, I'm a massive like Star Wars fan in general. But a lot of people just like, oh my God, that is my childhood right there. I always wanted to be Luke Skywalker. And then as you get older, you realise, oh yeah, George Lucas literally made all these movies as a commentary on like the US political system. The first three were about like the Vietnam War. And then the second three were about like the Iraq War, George Bush and Dick Cheney, like very political. So yeah, here's a very political filmmaker. And then you have this guy leading the rebellion, and then, yeah, he becomes the spokesperson for the group that inspired the empire. And Joe Biden, by the way, was actually a politician for years before George Lucas made the first Star Wars movie. Just for some context as well for how old Joe Biden is. But obviously Mark Hamill also supports Israel, but it just shows like the lack of humanity these people have. Or maybe being in this like liberal elitist bubble really isolates you from what people care about, because Mark Hamill doesn't care about the Palestinians. He's talking about Joe Biden basically being one of the best presidents ever, while I would actually argue he's worse than Obama. I think it's a debate whether he is worse than Donald Trump because of what he's been doing with Israel, and you can always say, well, Donald Trump would do that too, but that's not really the bar, is it, for being a good president? Oh yeah, well, Donald Trump would do that too. And I've also been saying for a long time, Joe Biden, in terms of foreign policy, is Donald Trump's second term. There's literally nothing he's done, in my opinion, which is something that Trump wouldn't also do as well, because as you've probably caught on right now, the US war machine keeps going no matter who's in charge, and it doesn't matter if it's the Democrats or the Republicans. Israel will keep getting their weapons, Israel will keep getting their military aid to be spent on US arms companies. The war machine will keep turning because, yeah, that's the United States empire for you. It doesn't matter, blue or red, it's the same thing. And on that note, let's get more into the boycott of people on social media now. So I was talking about the Hunger Games to start the video, and just an article by Dazed by Juno Kelly just wrote something interesting about like the Met Gala in contrast with what we're seeing from Gaza. So one night in the early 2000s, Susan Collins flipped through the TV channels and was struck by the dissonance between the footage of the Iraq War and scenes from a TV game show. The jarring incongruity piqued her imagination, and she set about penning a novel set in a futuristic dystopia where the elite cavort around in eccentric finery, gamifying their power over the rural working class. She called it the Hunger Games. A similar sense of dissonance has come over social media users in recent years, but at the beginning of the month it was brought into sharp relief. Our algorithms offered us images of Kim Kardashian preternaturally snatched in a Galliano gown against the backdrop of the Met Gala, alongside footage of the simultaneous invasion of Rafah, where 1.3 million displaced Palestinians were sheltering. One Twitter user wrote, seeing Met Gala coverage felt like when the tribute showed up at the Capitol in the Hunger Games, all glitzy and everyone in the capital cheered, while the rest of the districts are starving and dying and living in a totalitarian state. Other videos went viral contrasting the footage of Rafah with celebrities like Zendaya, Ariana Grande and Cardi B. Even more ironic, this year's theme, The Garden of Time, was based on a short story with the same revolutionary sentiment as the Hunger Games. The cautionary tale by J.G. Ballard depicts a vast concourse of labouring humanity closing in on a villa laden with art and literature. People were quick to point out that the story was a paradoxical choice. The gala saw the rich descend upon the flower-brimmed night of excess, while pro-Palestinian activists, our own vast concourse labouring humanity, protested outside. And this is kind of what kicked off the block list. But one more thing I want to comment on as well with like Gen Z. So my sister, who is about nearly 7 years younger than me, she grew up absolutely loving the Hunger Games, where I didn't really have much of an interest in it because I was too old at that point. I didn't think it was really appealing. But I grew up on like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, of course, as well. But with Star Wars, I was really too young to take in the broader political message. But with Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, the morality for me is so surface level and binary. It doesn't really set you up with like a good mindset towards like the complexity of the world, right? And I've said with millennials, when they view the world through Harry Potter, it kind of like explains a lot of things because Harry Potter encapsulates like this liberal dream society about meritocracy, also about like bloodlines and who's worthy and who's not. It's kind of like a Revenge of the Nerds fantasy where Harry Potter ends up becoming like the king of the magical cops at the end of the books, right? Where Gen Z are lucky because although dystopian young adult fiction is extremely derivative and often like, in my opinion, pretty terrible, at the same time, the themes, I think, help Gen Z maybe contextualize a lot of this stuff a lot easier than maybe my generation did, because it's inherently anti-capitalist, anti-authoritarian, and that's how you can take things like the Hunger Games and apply it to like the United States right now in regards to Israel and things like that, because it's born out of a criticism of something more serious and not coming out of like the 1990s, like J.K. Rowling, this like end of history vision of the world where we all live in some sort of liberal utopia, or something from, you know, the 1950s, all about this like fictional like English mythology that Tolkien wanted to create. So I find that interesting. But anyway, because like Gen Z obviously can easily make that comparison thanks to the pop culture they consumed, the block list became a thing. And it was basically like one TikTok that went viral, and they called it a digitine. And I can't play it for you because it uses copyright music. But it was a person basically saying that we've had enough of the ruling class. Let's start blocking them all on social media to hurt their impressions, hurt their revenue, hurt their potential for brand deals, and just kind of like make them feel like they're more irrelevant. And apparently a lot of people, like Taylor Swift, who has so many followers, apparently they lost a lot of followers. So you have various TikToks of people just talking about block lists, talking about who you should not follow anymore, and just loads of people jumping on the trend. Like, you shouldn't follow them because they stayed silent, or you shouldn't follow them because, you know, they don't use their platform for anything good, essentially.
And as far as influencers, I think we need to start with Let Them Eat Cake over here for reasons that I think are pretty self-explanatory. Let's do her first. Alex Earl and James Charles. They're all people who have profited immensely off of TikTok and Instagram. They're people who had no problem building their platform off your backs, but then when you ask them to speak out about something, they ignore you. So block. People like the Biebers and Amy Schumer and shit, those people should have already been on our block list a long time ago, okay? This is just the start, and feel free to add anybody in the comments that you also want to see highlighted. This is also for us guys. For so long, we have been conditioned to believe, and this applies to businesses and corporations too, that we are so lucky that they profit off of us. We're so lucky to kiss their feet while they take our money. It is time to understand that the ones that actually hold the power with our money and attention is us. And it's important that we do this together in a coordinated way in order for it to have an impact.
So I think the funniest thing to show this potentially works a tiny bit is I tried to see the dates, and Lizzo made this video after this boycott thing started. And suddenly Lizzo takes to her platform and starts posting about GoFundMes for like Gaza and Sudan.
Hey y'all, I hope that this video finds you well. This is Dr. Ismail. He's a doctor who lives in Gaza, who has been helping the people there, and he also needs help getting his family safely out of Gaza. I just donated to help get him and his family safely out of Gaza, and I will include a link in my comment section, so if you feel compelled to help, you can give as well. This is Help Sudan, Sudan Relief, a GoFundMe that is dedicated to helping the Sudanese people who are dealing with atrocities of violence against them. I donated to them as well, and I will also include a link in my comment section. If you feel compelled to help or give to the Sudanese people, you can. This is Pappy Orion, the founder of Focus Congo. Focus Congo is an organization that is dedicated to helping the people in the Congo, in the Republic of Congo, who are dealing with violence. I've also donated to them, and if you feel compelled to help in any way, I will include a link in my comment section for you to give. Dr. Ismail is not the only family in Gaza with a GoFundMe page. If you go to Operation Olive Branch, you can find hundreds of families who need your help. I'm also talking to my fellow rich people with money. If you don't know how to help, you can help families directly get to safety and possibly save a life. I hope you all have a blessed day. And remember, we ain't free till we all free.
Obviously there, Lizzo also, you know, appealing to other rich people. The problem with Lizzo is, of course, she's had a lot of bad PR recently because, you know, it's alleged she treats her dancers, workers, like absolute trash. So you could cynically see this as her jumping on something to try and make herself look better. But even then, you know, she's using her platform to promote this stuff, whatever the motive. That's a good thing. Hopefully these GoFundMes got a lot more support, which I'm sure they did because she has a massive following. So it shows that the boycott has worked in some capacity. It's just a shame you had to start shaming celebrities to actually do something with their platform, and realizing that even on a small scale, like, you know, lower level GoFundMes, they can actually do something with their platform. So that is good. And I'm glad more celebrities are feeling like pressure to do these things. And I'm just glad, like I said, more people are getting conscious about like celebrities not being worth a shit, really, because they are just like you. They might be talented as well. I'm not denying that. They might deserve like your respect in terms of like if they're musicians or they're actors and you enjoy their content. I'm not saying you can't do that. But then obviously because we start enjoying their performances, we start thinking they're better than they are. We start projecting our own personalities on them. So then we start seeing them as some sort of like moral arbiter or moral leader. And then we get really disappointed. So I'm hoping with this boycott thing, you're realizing that most celebrities are more concerned with their image. And we spoke about Taylor Swift a couple of times in this channel. Perfect example of someone who never says anything because her whole enterprise for me is just about profit, proved by her releasing like a 31 song album, which was just generally terrible and had no reason being that long. So maybe there was a reason for pumping out so much garbage just to overwhelm everyone. Now I have seen some criticism, and I don't know anything about this like user, but he basically articulated what other people have been saying, and I just want to respond to this.
To the people of this app who are doing the celebrity block trend where we're just straight up blocking these out of touch with reality celebrities, I commend you. Because listen, if there's anything that I'm good at, it's being a professional hater. So if you're telling me that the move is to block celebrities who can afford $75,000 a ticket to the Met Gala while the rest of us are out here trying to keep our heads above water, I'm all for it. Let's take down District 1. You have my vote. I do have one question though. Why is it that we can't take this same energy and put it towards people like politicians or greedy CEOs? Why is it that the only time that people can band together is when it's trendy to do so on TikTok? Like this whole celebrity blockout thing is a wonderful idea. Stop giving them views and attention and their revenue streams will go down. It's a brilliant idea. But what about the ding-dongs in Washington who pass bills in the middle of the night that only benefit their geriatric dinosaur wallets? Could we not all get together and do something even crazier? Like, I don't know, maybe refuse to pay taxes, or maybe we pick a month where nobody spends a single dollar on a mega corporation who rakes in billions of dollars a year, but their own employees can't even afford rent. I just wish we took this same energy that we have on TikTok to block celebrities or annoying influencers, but not the people who have actual impact on our day-to-day lives.
So I agree with this guy to some extent, but not completely. And the criticism of like, why can't we direct this energy to the people who actually make our lives terrible? I totally get that. I do. And I obviously wish more people did care about this stuff. I wish more people did care about Joe Biden making their life worse, or various different people in Congress or the Senate, or even like their local representatives in their state senate and stuff, or their governor. I wish more people cared. But the problem is, in the American capitalist system, you have two things, right? So your life is so hard that you don't really care about things you feel like you have no control over. Like, I don't know, a Democratic senator, Chuck Schumer, the head of the Senate Democrats, even Joe Biden. It's on such a massive scale, and you have your own problems to worry about. You have, you know, your poorly paid job, you have rent, you have bills, you have groceries, you have all these things to pay. I totally get why people don't care about politics, because they feel like no matter who's in power as well, it doesn't matter. So why would they care about that? But also on top of that, celebrity culture is a massive distraction from these issues, right? So people are very invested in celebrity culture because it's kind of even a way to numb the pain of living in the capitalist hellscape. But that's why I also think things like the boycott campaign are good, especially for younger generations who love TikTok so much, because they can start to link this a bit more. Like, oh, like these celebrities, they don't really care about the rest of us, kind of like our politicians, and I've really had enough of this, so I'm going to do something which I feel like is in my power, and I'm going to block them. And yeah, it is insignificant, but for me, it's more about the education of these issues being related. Like, in theory, the Met Gala has essentially nothing to do with the US government's funding Israel's crimes, right? But if we can start getting people to link that in their heads and realize there is a connection there, I think that's a good thing. Yes, would I rather everyone be very motivated? I don't know, get into politics and focus on political things? Yeah, sure. I'm also not naive, and I'm also sympathetic to people's just like views on this stuff. So I'm not going to shame people saying, well, you only care about celebrity culture, you don't care about actual politicians. If you care in any capacity, and if it's directed at the celebrities right now, I think that's generally a good thing for good education, and then hopefully you'll get more radicalized where you can care more about politics. So getting people motivated to go hate on these people is very, very hard. Having a very public face like Kim Kardashian and directing it towards her instead, so your average person can kind of get on board with that, I don't know. I think it's a good thing. Like, generally, I get it. Boycotting celebrities on social media might seem like a bit of a futile thing. And will it really hurt a lot of them in the long run? I don't know. Obviously, some of the targets of it seem a bit weird as well. And also, there's a lot of people who've stayed relatively silent, even though they have good politics. Like, Pedro Pascal has hardly said anything. He gets a lot of credit for being some sort of social activist, for promoting, like, socialism in his home country of Chile. But at the same time, he's hardly said anything, and he's also the star of The Last of Us, and Neil Druckmann continues to post on his social media about supporting Israel. Pedro Pascal continues to work with him, and there's a lot of celebrities who won't put their money where their mouth is and leave projects because of this. So yeah, I get why people might be a bit cynical on it, but for me, you have to think about it in a different way. You have to think about it in terms of mass engagement on a political topic rather than directing it at the necessary places and doing the most good. And this whole thing is radicalizing a lot of people in the younger generations, and generally that is a good thing for the world. Although someone who's a bit of a doomer, probably a bit too late to stop the worst effects of capitalism. Anyway, that is it for the video for today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.